All right, so we're recording. Great, and I did point out before to some early arrivers, but that is the one microphone, so speak maybe clearly and maybe toward the front of the room so that everybody can hear this recording afterward.
Okay, I will call the Wednesday, April 19th meeting of the Trees and Greenery Committee to order. We have the minutes from the March 8th meeting.
Oh, I have a comment on the minutes, under the Olmsted mention presentation. The first line, I would just say that she visited Smith College. It says that I visited my son's college, but he would have had a hard time getting into Smith, so.
Okay, so it should have said Smith College. Okay, any other comments? Now there's one correction that Dick wouldn't have picked up. Okay, tree removal requests, Portsmouth Public Library, 5 ash trees.
Yeah, so city request, ash trees in this city are obviously, not doing too well. So considering the location and the risk associated, it's safer for us to just get in there and remove these trees before they become an even bigger issue down the line.
Any comments or questions?
And so that's all of those ash trees.
Yeah.
One, and then. the
There was
clump
one
all together.
standalone and then
Yeah,
essentially a cluster of 4 other trees.
and they're all in the same boat
Yeah.
of badness. Now, will these be replaced with something?
Yeah, so the plan right now, and I've been talking to the head of the library over there, because a lot of people are just interested in why they're being removed and what's going to happen with replanting. So at this point in time, it's most likely to be replanted next spring with our spring plantings. So that's, yeah.
And could we, we always replace things with trees. Can we just broaden our scope to bushes
I would love to see,
or greenery?
yeah,
or,
if there was an opportunity to throw some more ground cover or turn it into a garden and then also incorporate some shade trees, because I think that would be pretty important to
Yes.
replace
right,
as
a
well.
little bit
But
of both.
yeah, I see no reason why we can't. I think it just comes down to who's going to do it. So yeah, I'm all for it.
When we have planted greenery, what do we do? What is that greenery? I haven't really, since I've been sitting on this committee, I haven't been presented much greenery.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it's just something to kind of maybe think more about, or
Yeah,
I don't mind. I know the city Peter doesn't particularly like, but I think a good old blueberry bush is just
Sure.
a stellar
yeah.
thing that could be perhaps for the library especially.
It could even be, I mean,
Right?
it could even
Yeah,
be some kind of adopt a spot in the future. That I see no reason why we can't incorporate other
I love that.
sorts of things. Yeah, so
All right.
at least for now, the trees will be removed. We plan on replanting and getting as many shade trees in there as possible. So not just limited to the 5 that we remove.
Yeah.
But we'll make some smart choices and get more trees in there.
Can we have a follow-up conversation on your choices?
Yeah,
Since the library is
it'll-
such a
it'll probably be
focal point.
only because what will be planted there is based on what's available from the nursery. So
Of
that
course.
conversation will happen until later this year.
Oh,
at
that's
the
fine.
earliest.
Just
So,
wanted to just
Yeah,
on record asking for
absolutely.
that.
Yep.
We did plant blueberry bushes at Atlantic Heights. and that
Yeah.
entrance.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, we
And they've
prune
done well.
those. Yeah,
I know,
we
yeah.
prune those every spring. So, and it's nice every so often. I think what's the name of the park with, it's between Islington and State?
Good one.
They also have blueberries over
Yeah.
there, and we
Yeah.
pruned them when the blueberries were ripe. So we would eat handfuls of blueberries while we did it. And it was a really great,
Great.
it was great. It was awesome.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah.
All right, wonderful.
And these trees at the library, I assume was what Dick refers to as volunteers. They were what went along the boundary between the armory that was there and the junior high fence at one time.
No kidding, they're volunteers.
Okay, do we have a motion to recommend a removal?
Second.
Dennis, a second on the pad, all in favor?
Aye.
379 Colonial Drive.
Yes, so this is an interesting situation because it was originally 2 linden trees. One of them was accidentally removed in the process of removing all the other trees for that sidewalk project. So it was 2 linden. It's now 1. I do have an official statement from John Brown and Sons regarding this. It was very unfortunate. I was pretty upset about it only because they were both, well, this one tree in particular was a healthy multi-stem linden. It wasn't identified as an issue for this project. And yeah, so just really unfortunate. I'm pretty upset about it only because we already talked about it a little bit earlier today, but close to 30 trees have already, full size mature linden trees are already coming out of that neighborhood. So, so yeah, I'm very upset about it. I think the homeowner was pretty happy with one of those trees being removed, but obviously that wasn't something that we had discussed and deliberated on previously. So
neither one of those were tagged originally.
so they weren't tagged for the project. I went out and tagged them separate for this meeting. So I can just read the whole statement if you want, just to would that be appropriate?
Yeah,
Would you guys like to hear? Okay. John Brown and Sons Inc. was contracted to remove trees for the city of Portsmouth through Lyman Construction. During the week of April 10th, one of the crews jumped ahead and came upon a tree with a similar placard as the trees marked for removal. When the crew started to set up, the property owners excitedly approached the crew as they had wanted the tree removed, they had wanted the tree taken down for a while. They moved all the vehicles away from the area of the tree removal. As the foreman walked by the tree, he noticed the tree was not part of the removal and was mistakenly identified. We stopped the removal immediately and notified Lyman Construction. The following morning, the city contacted us and asked us to complete the removal of the said tree. So by the time we were notified, they had stopped removing. One of the stems was essentially completely brush free. Another one was lion's tailed. And then the third, which was going toward the house, was relatively untouched, but it had all the other parts of the tree were removed, and we just didn't feel like it was appropriate to leave just that one part of the tree. And yeah, so it was decided just to be removed.
So
that's not the tree we were looking at this
No.
week.
So at 379 Colonial, there were 2 trees on the property. You probably didn't see the other one because it was already removed. So the one that you did see at 379 is the tree we're now discussing. These are, and then just so we're, and I'll say, so the homeowner cites several observations as the basis for the removal request. The trees are completely decayed, branches are always falling near power lines, and roots are coming toward the foundation of the home. We had been out there several occasions pruning those 2 trees specifically. Now we'll just talk about the one remaining there. But I've pruned that tree, I've given it line clearance to deadwood pruning. The tree, in my opinion, is totally healthy. I've had conversation with this homeowner multiple times. It was just, we're just now here talking about it, so it's more of like a final sort of decision. But that's my opinion on it. And yeah, I guess I leave it to you all to sort of deliberate on this tree.
Was my observation as well.
I was able to swing out there and take a look, and it looked good to me. I would vote to keep this tree. Papa.
assume the landowner is thinking, well, you've cut all these other trees down. I just want to take this one down, but we anguished over the removal, the previous removal, and I didn't see a reason to take
All the more reason to keep it.
it. Yeah. Any other comments?
Will the sidewalk go on that side?
Yeah, so it was that, so this tree will not be impacted negatively by the construction project. If that was the case, it would have been deemed for removal in the original pass through. Yeah, there's at least, Mark, if you have anything to add, but I think it's safe to say that that tree will be unharmed in that construction process.
Yeah, we we looked at it and I spoke to the homeowner as well. Sorry, Mark Batchelor, Steve Work.
Sorry. Thanks,
Okay,
Mark.
thank you. Thank you.
The Canterbury sidewalk project is the project that I'm working on. And I spoke to the homeowner afterwards, after the cutting of the tree, and expressed to him the reason why we identified that tree. There's not an issue for the sidewalk. It didn't have roots protruding that would cause potential heaving. We had our clearances that were necessary for the 5.5-foot sidewalk. So, you know, from our perspective, the sidewalk, it was one that we really wanted to see. So,
Thank you.
So
You just
we have a
vote to
motion
deny it?
Recommend not to deny them, not recommend removal.
I'll second, I'll
Any
third that.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And something going, I thought being handled well at Panaway is they've already taken up all the old pavement and put loam down. I thought to see that was.
Can I just add, what is all the trees that were removed, that it was outsourced? What will happen if that becomes mulch, or what happens to those? That's
I don't
just for my
know.
personal.
I don't know what they're doing with all the material from those removals. I'm not sure.
Those stumps are gonna be full, and that's gonna be a hell of a project.
Mm.
Those stumps.
Morning.
Good morning.
Apologies for my delay. I don't know.
Pretty nasty.
Are you the homeowner at 379? Would you like to, you can come up and sit with us. We actually just talked about the remaining linden tree at 379.
Okay,
Do you have anything you'd like to add to the?
I just feel the root system's gonna be an issue. It's going towards my foundation. Still going to see. That's my major concern. I requested the tree be removed in the past. The city didn't. They worked with me though. They cut the root, but the only issue is the root came back even stronger.
Okay.
So, and it's going straight towards my foundation, and it's also near a gas line. So I figured since you guys are doing the sidewalk projects, and moving trees anyway, you know, it's a concern of mine, so that went to the question.
Okay. So I believe we ultimately decided to not move forward with the removal.
Okay, why?
Would anyone like to address that?
The approach of the committee has always been if it's a healthy tree, unless it's causing if it's a healthy tree, not causing any problems, the wires, anything else, we do not recommend removal. And we pointed out that we're not knowing it was coming, but that a homeowner seeing all the other trees removed in the area, started saying, hey, why can't we just take this one down?
Yeah.
And we struggled with the removal for the sidewalk project, and had a couple meetings on it.
Okay.
But policy has consistently been, so the tree is healthy, it's part of the streetscape, we do not recommend it.
Okay, so how old do you think the tree is?
My guess would be 50, 60 years old.
How long is the sidewalk?
It depends on environmental factors and a litany of other things, but ultimately, we don't really see signs of decline as of right now.
How do you determine if the tree is declining?
I mean, we'll know within the next couple of weeks or month, based on how thick and dense the foliage is. If there's a lot of canopy dieback, that'll indicate that there are some other things going on related to the root system. Yeah, I didn't see any cavities or cankers or anything of that kind, so it's structurally sound. Yeah, there was a tree that we removed last fall that was in serious decline, where it had very sparse leaves, leaves all along the trunk of the tree. So it was a bunch of suckering branches that were coming out, nothing growing at the ends of the branches. So that obviously suggests that the tree was in serious stages of decline. And that was only 2 houses down from you. So when I think about that tree in comparison to the tree that's currently at your property, it's night and day. there's little question that it's a healthy tree at this point.
So, with my concern is the root system.
Sure.
Towards my foundation. That's
Okay.
not a legitimate concern.
I suppose it is, but my reaction to that is a tree root is going to go where there's an opportunity. So it's not necessarily the tree trying to penetrate through the foundation of your house, but more that there's an opportunity for a root to get into the foundation of your house. So it's, I run into this all the time and I don't have much to add to that. It's just, it's a tree and it's gonna grow where it can, I suppose.
So how are you guys rectifying the root issues, sidewalks?
I don't,
You're leaving trees that roots are exposed. So for instance, my root is exposed, it cracked the asphalt.
okay,
But you're gonna leave that straight. So you're gonna put new concrete over an existing root.
I don't have an answer. So every tree that was determined an issue for that project was flagged and removed as such. If our departments in charge of that project did not see that as an issue, I have no comment on that.
So I heard you guys are getting backlash because people didn't want the trees removed, which is fine. That's personally fine. And you said you were receiving backlash because of the sidewalk project. For what reason? People didn't want to remove the sidewalks that were already cracked.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
You said that you received some backlash for the sidewalk project.
Yes.
Why?
People that had, generally, the opposition came from people who had trees in front of the house, homes, that didn't want them removed.
But I'm a homeowner who wants it removed because I see an issue that's going to happen.
Well, we've had that issue, and actually, I think it was the North Church, we had a tree much closer to the structure and concern about it. And we looked at it a number of times, and I think eventually there was some concern, but it was much farther from the structure than your home. I mean, if we use that as the basis, I think a third of the trees, street trees would have to come down, unfortunately. And
Yeah, but I'm here voicing my concern. Nobody else is.
well, we're listening to your concern, but I don't agree with you. I mean, I think, I understand the concern, but I think in terms of where that tree is in relation to your home, and we've seen, fortunately, we haven't seen this a lot recently, but when you have a big storm and a lot of trees are uprooted, pretty rare that the roots go more than 15 feet from the trunk of the tree. That's probably a better case, but
Yeah, but you just said the tree's probably 50 years old. So if you plan on keeping it another 50 years, you think the root doesn't grow? It's not going to seep.
it will
moisture?
grow. I'm not an expert, and Max much more expert than probably any of us, but I think the likelihood, let me ask this, is that normally the tree roots are under the canopy, more or less?
My understanding is that a tree can send a root out at least 1 to 1.5 times the total height of the tree. But as far as structural strong roots, you're not going to find those, you're not going to find that 100 feet away from the tree. You're not going to find that 50 feet away from the tree. The more, that root zone right underneath the tree is going to be your stronger or structural roots. And then those finer, more absorbing roots are going to be closer to the drip line and then even further away from that drip line as well.
You said that this would get cut back a root before. Do you remember when that was?
Years ago. I have a picture of the root, just if you want to see it. So how big do you think that root will get?
I actually don't want to comment on that because I'm not too sure at this point.
I'm not comfortable with that answer. Who pays for my foundation if it's cracking it due to the city tree? After I put this request in.
Well, I'd say that it's a hypothetical question,
Yeah, it
and we have, our experience, it's never been after being on the committee, I don't know how many years, committee.
So you're saying it'll
that,
never
that-
happen?
pardon me?
You're saying it'll never happen? You haven't had that experience?
I think it's extremely unlikely that we'll ever have. And if, as I said, if we use that as a criteria, there wouldn't be a street tree enforcement.
So did you dug down there to expose that roof?
Yeah, because they covered it up.
Peter, isn't this analogous to a roof penetrating a sewer lateral? If that happens.
Which is another issue in that neighborhood too.
Well,
There's
let
been
me
plenty of
finish.
roofs cracked in the sewer line.
That's the homeowner's responsibility. I can attest to that personally because
If it's on my property, it's on city property. It's not.
the tree,
My tree's on city property.
Yeah.
So what's your question?
here's my question, it's a statement.
You tell me I have to pay for my sewer line? If it's
Yes.
on my property,
Correct.
not if it's broken at the city property.
Your property is the lateral that goes out to the street.
Right.
If-
But I want to avoid that issue. That's why I'm here today. I want to avoid this mess.
Well, I think we understand your concern, but there's a conflict here. We're looking at it. Our job is to promote trees and greenery in the city of Portsmouth and streetscapes. And as a policy matter, if we took down every tree that the landowner thinks
I'm
will
not telling you to take
eventually,
down every tree.
pardon me?
I'm not telling you to.
No,
take
you're
down
asking
every
for one tree.
Right.
And
One
we
tree.
can't say,
You
when
guys
the
run
guy
the
comes
process
in
of doing it
tomorrow and
anyway.
says, I want to take that tree down, I'm concerned about it on my property. And the next neighbor and the next neighbor would have no trees in Portsmouth. And that's one of the beauties of Portsmouth, are our tree-lined streets.
Right, I love trees, but you're not getting that. What's going on is you guys are in the process of removing some trees for sidewalks. I'm asking for the tree that I think is gonna be a concern to my property in the future. Why can't you just get rid of one tree?
Because we can't just get rid of one tree.
But
We're
you're doing it
setting
anyway.
policy, we're setting policy. I mean, I appreciate you coming in.
Is
but
this your final decision?
Yes,
Okay,
it
can I
is.
get something in writing?
I'll send you a letter.
I don't even know who you are.
Peter Loughlin, I'm the chairman. I'll send you a letter.
Can I get like the meeting agendas, like notes from this meeting?
This
Yes,
meeting
they'll
will
be
be published online and there will be,
Nothing in
there will
writing?
be, excuse me,
Nothing in writing?
there will be a written,
out.
it'll be, everything's said in this meeting will be written out for public record.
Will you at least cut the roof?
We will talk about it. I can't say right now because I would have to look into specifically where and what you want cut. So I can't say yes or no right now, but I will come out and look at it with you.
Okay,
Okay,
but you've done it in the past.
I haven't done it in the past.
Somebody has.
The department has. That's why I'm telling you, I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no to you at this point in time.
Would you be opposed to limiting any part of the tree?
We've already gone through and pruned it. I personally have pruned the tree that was accidentally removed on your property and the tree that we're now discussing. So I've personally gone through it. If it needs to be deadwooded again, we can do that. But we're not going to, we will make certain justifications for certain kinds of pruning. It'll just be a matter of us going out there and looking at the tree.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
138 Bartlett Street. Did we finish?
Oh, we didn't do 224 Elwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The backyard on.
Yeah, so this one is, so this was just a maple, a portion of it failed during a recent storm. Homeowner contacted me to clean up the mess caused by the storm. And after looking at it, there were some structural issues and figured it's just best to remove that tree.
Questions, comments?
Yes.
Motion by Michael, second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
138 Bartlett Street.
So this is, Mark Batchelder will come up and that's what the landscape plan is in front of you.
Oh, good.
I thought that was the saving grace of that whole area, and I'm like, it's coming down.
The only tree on
The
Bartlett
only
Street.
tree, and I was, okay, let's hear it.
I apologize, it's a small plan too, I should have made larger plans.
We hope to have no paper plans in the future.
I know, right? So part of this project that I'm working on for Public Works is essentially redoing the utility and roadway system for Bartlett Street from Kate Street all the way up to Dennett, including Thornton and Morning Street, all getting new utilities and new roadway there. Part of this, the request has been put into, right now, there's really only one sidewalk on one side of Bartlett Street from Kate Street up to give or take Morning. Then there's sidewalks on both sides. So we've been requested to continue the sidewalk on the south side from Morning Street in front of Precision Auto and connected to the tip down ramp that's now at Kate Street. In doing so, that fantastic large tree at the corner of Morning Street is in the way of the sidewalk. Unfortunately, this is also a very narrow street section, and narrowing it anymore to kind of push the curb line out and move the sidewalk out isn't really an option. It would have to take some real, I guess, requests from the fire department, things like that, to narrow the street even further. It's already at or below their minimum as it is. So that's kind of the backstory to this tree. So.
And the space from the tree to that home, there's just no workaround, sidewalk workaround, and
I won't say that there isn't. We would have to request both an easement. So if we wanted to route the sidewalk behind, we'd have to request an easement from them and that moped place where
Yeah.
that big section there in order to get it back
Right.
around. So the DPW doesn't necessarily like to go that route of requesting easements if there's an avenue not to. So we have not sought that out. We have not requested anything at this point for that scenario.
Is this a question of just a sidewalk, or is there are the pipes under that, going to be pipes under that, or is it just a sidewalk issue?
There are already pipes under there, and we will be coming through with new water main, new sewer, and hopefully not drainage, but new water and sewer, and they both go along that curb line that we will be excavating the street portion of that area as well. So there's potential to get into the root system if it's migrated under the road. These are the water and the sewer are close to 100 years old. So, and we have had infiltration of roots into the sewer previously and had to make repairs in that area already. So it is expected to get into the root system as part of the utility work.
Is there a way that we could explore whether there's a way to get the easement or approach? What would be the process for that? And Peter's not here, he's on time, but I wonder if that's something we could ask. That I assume it's not something that has to happen today.
No, well, correct, yes. This project's still in design phase at this point. We are really pushing to get the design done so that it can go out to bid towards the end of May. But this could be a scenario like we're trying out a temporary roundabout temporary mini roundabout that is going to kind of get scaled to see if that's going to get integrated in the project. So there's multiple things that are still movable on this project that we're working with. So it's not something that needs to be decided today. We can come back and with some more information, but I just wanted to get it out on the table as soon as possible so that if this does have a potential of starting work in the fall, That's what we'd really like to do. So I don't know, even if that tree would be a necessary thing that would have to go out in the fall anyways, because this is a much longer project than just a couple of months in the fall. This is probably a 1.5-year project. So whether or not that would be one of the first things, I don't think it would be, but
My inclination is to table this and get more information, at least for me personally. I would like to try to get a workaround on that.
So we have a motion to ask the Public Works Department to explore the possibility of having a workaround on that one tree on all of Bassett Street.
What species?
Ash. It's ash.
White ash?
Believe so. So that's my one concern, is that we can go through this entire process of trying to save the tree, ultimately succumbing to EAB a year or two later. And we do have an understanding of trees under stress. So say we do cause some root issues there, the tree won't have an adequate root system to support its recovery or response to EAB. So that's my one concern. Of course, if we want to go the route of trying to save it, I think if that was something we sincerely wanted to do, and there was a viable workaround, I would also then try and get some sort of pesticide application to it as well. So it's some kind of injectable to then future-proof it for the next 2 years while it's in that sort of recovery phase. That's my only note on it, I suppose. I'm all in favor of whatever decides here at the table. So.
And I will say that it is substantial, the sidewalk, it's pretty much paved all the way up around it right
Yes.
now, and it is pretty well mounded. That I am also, I will also say that I do have a concern of even getting a sidewalk around it at a proper elevation that's not gonna be, it's gotta be ADA compliant, things like that. So that is also still a concern, that even if we went around it, that we would potentially have that problem. But, I'd be happy to continue to do more looking into it, that sort of thing.
I think it's more trouble than it's worth.
Peter, I'd like to observe that about 10 years ago, a very extensive sewer project was undertaken along Lincoln Avenue, up near where it was Junkins, and several very large trees were spared through the so-called workarounds. And in every case, they're gone. And so what you have now is a sidewalk with a big arc that doesn't do anything. That coupled with the fact that the tree will almost certainly die, and the fact that it's a white ash, I would say move up, take it down.
That sounds like a motion to recommend removal.
It is.
So, do you want me to make that motion?
Yes,
I think we should remove the tree.
so that's a second to Dick's motion. Any further discussion? Beth?
I struggle with the whole ash issue. And I guess what my concern is, and it may not apply here, but when we consider ashes, we assume they're dead before they're dead. And I think there's such a beauty to them. There's sort of they don't get all the press that the maples get and the oaks get. And yet they are such a contribution to our landscape and to nature and to baseball bats. I mean, for all the reasons we've used them for years. And I just have this thought process of, oh, it's an ash, it's going to die anyway, when maybe we can enjoy them until they actually do die. And it's, looking at the library ashes and seeing the evidence. I mean, I have them on our property up in Guilford, and it's really sad. So I'd like to hold on to them for as long as we can. It may not apply in this situation. I do understand. We'll probably just by doing the construction. So, but I just want to put a plug in for ash trees while they're still able to be, to survive.
That's well said. I really
So noted.
appreciate that. Well, coming back to Dick's point about the workarounds of the big trees off of Lincoln and that there's these holes. Is that an opportunity for those holes to be filled with big trees instead of the small urban trees that we continue to plunk around in Portsmouth? Which I don't know what that's gonna look like in 15 years, but it's just gonna be like mini land. I
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah, it comes down to every site we treat as a blank canvas. So if there are overhead power lines, we have to work within what realistically will work long-term. So if we put in a big shade tree, that inevitably has to be pruned and not top, but that's obviously not healthiest for the tree. So finding the right tree for the right site. Yeah, I kind of pride myself in doing that. We did that. We're over 100 trees planted this spring. So I feel very strongly that we're doing a good job for every tree that we're doing in every space. Yeah.
So we have a motion to recommend removal. All in favor?
Aye.
With,
No.
and Deb votes no, and Pat's concern is no.
So
Um,
where do we end up?
There was approved with one vote, no. 387 Lang Road.
This is an Eversource request. There is Scott's here, so you can help out with this
Morning,
one.
everyone.
Did you find us?
Finally, yeah.
Sorry, Scott, I dropped the ball on you. My apologies.
Yeah, so I'm here this morning representing Eversource. There's a tree at 387 Lang Road that has a very large cavity up about 15 or so feet. Because that tree leans out towards the three-phase, that is not a good situation in Eversource's mind. A lot of people go out of power when three-phase goes.
Who spotted that?
Part of my job, look for trouble.
And what's three-phase?
3 separate primary lines.
I see.
There's single phase, double phase, three-phase.
The other trees are all fine.
They seem to be, I'm looking for the defect of defects. So I don't pay as much attention to small plow scuffs and things like that. This is a fairly significant cavity.
Any questions for Scott? We have a motion to recommend removal. Made by Dennis, seconded by Deb.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
777 Middle Road.
That's another one of Eversource's requests. Again, that development and condo association has three-phase running along Middle Road right there on it. They are trimming that section of circuits this year. There's a few other trees that are inside the Portsmouth boundaries that the condo association has asked us to remove. They're dead. These particular ones are ash trees, and I know you love your ash trees, but
Somebody has to love them.
unfortunately, the emerald ash borer is coming very quickly to Portsmouth.
Yes, it is. It's here.
Just to touch on one brief note about your white ash, because of the cellular structure in the ash, by the time you realize that they are dead, they deteriorate extremely quickly after that. So preemptive notification that you've got a problem with it, you can see the bonding
Yeah.
on the bark. It's a telltale sign that you're
Yes.
in trouble already. I believe there are 3 trees that I have right there. on
Yeah,
that.
so there was one standalone tree and then a multi-stem cluster toward the entrance.
And we did just approve next to it, tree removal as well,
Yes.
just what last fall.
We have a motion, I believe, Dennis, and seconded by Michael, I think. All in favor?
Aye.
100 Lafayette Road.
Just Eeyore here.
100 Lafayette Road.
Yeah, that's the last of my requests from Eversource this morning. It's a white ash tree, very highly infested with emerald ash borer. Again, right next to three-phase. It seems to be Eversource's focus this year is three-phase lines.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Is there any advantage to taking down a tree with, or not taking, other than the safety part of it? I mean, if it doesn't or is it still spread?
The emerald ash borer bores in, lays its eggs, the eggs develop inside the cambium layer, sucks the nutrients out of the tree. So those little eggs now hatch into more emerald ash borers, they're going to go somewhere. Leaving the tree standing just promotes the growth of the emerald ash borer. By cutting it down and chipping and doing what we do with it, that theory supposedly kills the eggs developing inside and the new larvae hatching.
When I worked for the city of Denver, one of their, it was in a county north of Denver County. One of their reactions was to start selecting ash trees to remove before emerald ash borer reached.
Preventative measure.
And they called it a phloem reduction. So essentially what Scott is saying, so the more opportunity an emerald ash borer has to attach itself to a healthy tree, it allows more generations of emerald ash borer to then float onto the next ash tree. So essentially what they were doing was they were selecting ash trees to treat every 2 years, trees to remove. And that was their preemptive approach to emerald ash borer before it even got to Denver County.
And how,
Wow.
do you know how that program?
From what I know, it has not yet been found in Denver. And they think it had something to do with a prevalent wind that was blowing everything sort of away and more north and east as opposed to south. So I think nature was on their side a little bit, but it also helped that it was a countywide measure. So every tree that was determined either in fair or poor condition before emerald ash borer, they would remove it. They would save the ones that they thought were worth saving. So those nice big neighborhood installation trees, they would save and put in the, a big chunk of money into just the pesticides alone. So it was a big operation, but sounds like it's working okay.
Peter, I haven't been involved in emerald ash borer in a while, but my sense of it was that it's always ahead of what we see on trees. So if your question is, by removing infested trees, are we slowing the rate that uninfested trees are going to get infested? I don't really think that that's true, because I think they're always ahead of it. So if the idea is you want to save your ash trees for as long as you possibly can, that's a noble thing to do.
But
And-
not practical.
Like because of the
You know,
I mean, as long as they're not in front of the library where there's thousands of people walking
Yeah.
by. So the one on Lafayette, if you wanted to leave it up to see how long it takes between the time you see really obvious signs of it and when major pieces start to fall off the trees, I mean, that's one experiment that you could do. Or if there's other trees in other locations where you're trying to figure out how much light the tree has even after it's infested, as long as there's no people or houses and stuff, maybe you could leave them up to see. But yeah, that's a good system as long as emerald ash borer gets to Denver. And
Right.
if it doesn't, then you really cut down a lot of trees and you spend a lot of money on insecticides that maybe you didn't have.
And for the record, Dennis is a retired expert on entomology,
Yes.
on forestry.
But I retired a long time.
Well, putting that into historical perspective, we did. Our city manager at that time was Bob Violet. And Richards Avenue was lined 20 feet on center with American elm trees. Had he taken a different approach, I'm convinced in retrospect, he wanted to all go. And over a period of 10 years, that entire street was wiped out.
Yeah. It's very sad, David.
I think the studies say that by the time the emerald ash borer gets into the tree, it's about a 4-year cycle.
And when does it start falling apart? After that 4-year period? or-
I really don't know, to be honest with you, from what I've seen and can remember. I think by the time you get up into that 3+ year range, the top pieces are starting to break off. These tend not to fall apart quite like a pine tree would at the base. They tend to break off 6 or 8 foot pieces
And
at
is
a
the
time.
bonding before that gets to that? part where it's
The
falling?
bonding is a sign that woodpeckers and stuff are going after the bug that's inside. So
Okay,
they're just chipping the bark off. It's not really the beetle coming out.
and unless you take the outer surface of the bark off, you won't see the squiggly.
You won't see the galleries,
evidence.
but you will see the exit holes. So as these,
Yes.
as they
yes,
start to
that's great.
pupate and change into their adult forms, they will emerge out of the tree and leave a very unique D-shaped hole. I have noticed it's quite
Quite
a,
small.
it's very small.
Yeah, you really gotta pay
You have
attention.
to know what
Look-
you're
Yeah.
look
looking
for
for.
Yeah, that I've noticed it on several trees already here in the city.
I think people that are really looking for EAB infested trees are looking for woodpecker.
Yeah, that's kind of the first.
That's your
Yeah.
first real major sign.
That's, and it's easy now because there are no leaves on the trees yet.
Yeah.
And usually when this occurs, the tree starts putting out a bunch of shoots, kind of covering up some of that as well. So,
Is it
I
at all?
have a white ash next door, some woodpeckers.
yeah.
Heads up.
So if it looks like somebody took some nice light brown paint and painted the tree, you're in trouble.
So do we have any information for landowners on city website about?
The most
Alternatives
that I've seen is that it's a pest to watch out for, similar to woolly aphid delegate. Is that, did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I got the 3 keywords in there. But there's no resources. There are no resources really to speak of, at least as far as EAB for homeowners.
In terms of information.
Correct, yeah. Obviously, I'm sure it's plastered all over the UNH extension website. We don't post anything on our city website.
I think this
So we can
education
QR?
is wonderful.
Could QR,
We
yes,
can
we could
QR
QR
code
code it.
that.
We also now have a new communications person who's working on kind of completely revamping the city website to make
Great.
it more
User
user
friendly.
friendly. Yes.
Even
So
if we
just
just have a
doing
hyperlink to
To
UNH
UNH
extension
station.
office,
Yes, that would
be
just be so simple and brilliant.
for sure. And we can even, I mean, something that happened in Denver was actual signage was made and then stapled or whatever to those ash trees. So that could be a guerrilla way of doing it as well, getting that same information out there. And having it be on a tree that is currently afflicted with elder ash borer. So we could absolutely do something, get the word out to as many people as possible.
I think the education is so important, even just for us too. I remember a few years, probably not a few now, but I remember Worcester attacking.
Yes, that's right.
They
You're right.
cut down thousands of trees. But as a preventative measure as well.
Well, they were trying to slow down the infestation.
And so did it work?
You know, it's another situation where the beagles, they're a lot of times ahead of what you can actually see.
So they skipped Worcester and came here.
They're already outside of Worcester when they were cutting down trees in Worcester.
They ended up, they drew a circle from Worcester as the center point and really expanded out several miles and took down a tremendous amount of trees.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the company that worked on that project too.
Okay, so 100 Lafayette Road, we have.
Yeah,
recommendation.
let's bring it back to, yeah.
Thank you for the education very much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Thank you, Scott.
Seconded by Pat, I think, all in favor
So what's the motion again?
to recommend removal?
Okay.
Aye, okay.
Chairman, I apologize. I believe it is Student Government Day.
Oh,
So,
exciting.
I'm sad they didn't start at 8 a.m. so they could be part of this, but I apologize. I have to go
Thank you.
use my kid.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good. Great, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Scott.
And I think not to get us out of here as quickly as possible, but I think they have something on the books for 9 o'clock here. So for what it's worth, we do have a little bit to get through, but I can, so I'll just move right on to Coach Road. So I flagged 6 trees out there. Primex approached me to host a chainsaw safety and felling class. I told them that it would be, all of our tree removals go through the city. So if you all went out and saw these Coach Road trees, did we all see those trees?
They look like
Yes.
winking aspen to me.
Oh, do they? Okay, great.
Ton of them in
Yeah,
Wait, why is that great?
well, I don't know, I
I
just,
don't, yeah, does this happen often? Tell me more about this.
No,
Is
so
this
I-
a
not that-
unusual request of-
we, at least since I've been here, so September 2019, I haven't been a part of or helped host a felling course through Primex. So I was approached and asked if we could host. I said, sure, but we'd have to go through the process of actually posting trees for removal. They requested trees anywhere from 10 to 12 inches in diameter and 6 total trees. I figured the least offensive place to submit trees for removal would be something like Coach Road and inside of that circle. So
Can you
I,
get the trucks through those Jersey barriers?
yep. So there's a little chain that we would just take off, and yeah, we've gone down there and done pruning and other removals in the past. So I didn't want to obviously say, hey, let's go down to Prescott Park and flag 6 trees removal. I figured this was the least offensive and most likely to pass, but I made no promises or anything to Primex about this idea. So
If those trees part of the southeast land trust.
A long time ago, my memory is hazy, but we did put that in conservation.
Yes.
even the inside the ring there, like, because that's all of that is considered south. Okay. Okay.
So does that make that a different animal? I have to abstain. I did not see it.
My understanding, it is all city property for what it's worth, but obviously I'm not, no pressure or anything. This
When
was
is it scheduled? When's the?
September.
Who's Primex?
So they,
Yeah.
gosh.
I
they're
always think
gonna-
I'm always the one asking the simplest.
Sure, no,
ones.
they, so from my understanding, they essentially are sort of our,
The municipal insurance carrier.
thank you, wow, thank you so much. Municipal insurance
Ah.
carrier, they do all of our trainings. The majority of our trainings either online or in person. So this is just, there's a classroom component that would meet at DPW. And again, it's municipal, so it's local municipalities. They would come, sit in on the classroom session, and then they would go out and in groups, fell some trees.
Is there a reason why another municipality couldn't volunteer 6 trees?
It's a great point, and
Noington
no,
might
I don't
be
know.
right.
Did you walk out there?
I did.
They won't listen.
Okay. I looked on Google Maps and I thought, where are these trees? Yeah, it looks like a jungle, but I did not.
So you don't think it'll make any difference?
Not at all.
So. do we have a-
Conservation or not, no.
I'll make a motion to remove.
Seconded,
Offer.
second by Michael. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes.
Thank you.
Okay, 182 Edmund Avenue.
Yep, so 2 shade trees. This was discussed by Chuck Baxter last year with the homeowner, but I went out and confirmed that it is a good site for 2 trees. I believe there is a sidewalk project in the works for all of Edmonds, so planting in our right of way wouldn't necessarily work. And this allows these trees to have a more long-term unencumbered site to be planted in.
And Edmonds could use some focus.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did the homeowner choose these species?
So it was based on what I had left out of our inventory for planting this year. And I suggested these 2 trees and they were very happy with those
Did you have
suggestions.
to- we vote on
You
that?
think they're too close to each other?
So the issue with, yes, and I think it'll be an issue a little bit longer term once they start to mature and you'll have that canopy, those 2 canopies kind of getting into each other. But I thought they were a little close, but I initially had them about 30 feet away from each other. And there were issues with utilities underground.
Do we have a motion to approve the, no, the tree?
What?
What?
The tulip tree, that thing will be a monster.
Yeah,
So Michael, would you suggest just one? In your, if,
I was just concerned about the spacing between, eventually the tulip tree would overtake.
for sure, yeah. The ginkgo, in my mind, the ginkgo is closer to the driveway,
Yeah.
not that that makes much of a difference, but there's way more room on at the other side.
Anyone that wants to improve this trees on Edmund.
There aren't any.
That's right, that's right, yeah.
so moved.
So do we
Sounds
recommend?
terrific.
Planting, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
And
170 Aldrich.
yep, so the homeowner saw that I was flagging out in the right of way on Aldrich, asked if we could plant other trees. And the right of way is pretty much that slope is that boss right there? So there's that slope right there. It's not unheard of to plant in a slope like that, but to make things easier, I suggested that we could just move those trees up to where it's flat. He loved the idea. Of course, I then said it has to go to the committee for approval for planting as a part of our tree grant program. And here we are. So a quercus bicolor and a ginkgo, the oak will be closer to the road, sort of in the corner of his lot, and then the ginkgo will be at the other side.
I think it's terrific. In the probably the 70s or early 80s, I planted 2 sugar maples in front of that home on the lawn. And they both looked great for about 20 years, and then slowly started to die back from what I think is salt, and both are gone. So
Yeah.
I think it's terrific.
The trees going under the power lines.
The oak is the nearest to the power lines. I wouldn't say obviously it's Aldrich, so there are a lot of trees in the power lines through that whole road, but.
No, I'm talking the
Oh,
ones
sorry.
that you're gonna plant out on the city property.
Oh, those, yeah, so those are, I believe those are 2 Ambermackia. And then these, so yeah, these are separate. These are obviously up on
Yeah, yeah.
on the hill there, so.
Is it given that those would be male?
Yes, yeah, I would assume so. Only I hope we didn't get screwed by Schichtels. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do us like that. So, yeah, my understanding is they're all gonna be. God, that'd be awful.
Oh, that's just tree humor.
So motion to recommend.
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Updating on.
Yeah.
Here's a long title report.
I'll make it as brief as possible, but so all of the trees from the tree giveaway, I believe, are all gone. We put them down back at the recycling center, and there were maybe 30 white oak at the end of last week, and I think there's none. I could be wrong, but when I counted yesterday, there were 5. So I believe they're open today again. I'm sure they're going to disappear and be planted, distributed. There was also the flyers and everything on how to plant. So they should all be properly planted and everything. We're probably about 120 trees of our planting operations, plugging away, and now we'll have 4 more confirmed sites. So that's really good. Yeah.
What'd you put in down around the South Mill Pond?
South Mill Pond, so right next to the dog park were smaller variety trees, just because that's where they're shooting off fireworks. In 30 years, we wouldn't want there to be a weird conflict in having them shoot fireworks into trees. So yeah, those were some Ambermackia, some crabapple. There's one more, maybe a serviceberry, can't quite remember. And then around the other part of the pond there, just other large shade trees. Can't quite remember, I'm sorry. But it's
No, they all look nice.
a nice wide variety for sure. Yeah, thank you.
I know I'm weird, but it just gives me a thrill when I see like the trees you put along the Parrot Avenue parking lot, and the ones out by the community gardens and these other places that you and your people in the Public Works came up with this plan and carried this entire thing out, and I just think it's great. I mean,
Yeah, I
that
agree.
is.
Totally, totally.
The committee used to go around and try to find sites, and now I mean, you and your crew have do all of that on your own. It's just, it's wonderful.
It is
Cool.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And driving
Well
around
done.
this morning at 6 a.m. to look at some of these trees, nobody was on the street. And there on Islington Street, those little trees are just
Yes.
budding.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And it was just filled me up. It was just so wonderful.
It's my favorite time of the year for
You're
sure.
weird
so.
too.
I'm very weird. About trees.
Yes, yeah. I wonder if we want to continue Dick's presentation to the next, sure.
I'd like to table.
Sorry,
that.
I'm very sorry about
Yeah,
the change of
problem.
scenery and the
Yeah.
time constraints today.
No,
My
let's-
apologies.
Yeah, let's table that till next time. Okay?
And we have old new, but we have a guest from the cemetery committee. Was that from official business or?
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, quickly, I know the survey has been done to verify what the access is and what part of the properties down there the city owns. So the last time I was here, the suggestion had come up that once it was clearly marked, then you guys would do a walkthrough to, see what kind of trees, or what trees you need to be taken down.
And just for everyone's, if you're talking about the South Street,
I'm talking about
access to-
Hall Cemetery.
Hall Cemetery,
on
the
South
access
Street.
to-
So, and I just want to clarify, if I came across last time, we're not talking about clear cutting. We're talking about just making a walkable path down to the actual cemetery. So,
You would like for us to schedule a site walk?
yes, I mean, that was the suggestion so that everybody and that the community could see too,
Love
because there's concern that also all of a sudden there may be a lot of people coming up through and would the path be big enough, things like that. So,
Mhm. Okay.
So maybe we can, you're kind of busy at the moment, I suspect.
Yeah, a little bit.
Get a little busy.
Yeah, we can, I can just send out an email with that, unless, can everyone, if we can determine a date today, that'd be fine, but if it takes a little bit longer for us to sort of get our ducks in a row, we can just continue this discourse probably via email. if that
Who would
works for everybody.
ultimately select the trees to come down?
I mean, I think it could be collaboratively with everybody, but I think that would be a good thing to discuss on the sidewalk too.
right, and with the 3 different tree arborists that I went down through and with Max, a lot of the trees are, what do you call them, weed trees?
Like Norway maple volunteer.
Right, or they're multi-stems, they never grew as one stem, so. Not that they're not worth saving per se, but that's a negative for us, so.
And how wide?
Oh, it's already determined.
Oh, okay.
by the-
So after you're
60.
done through this period,
Yeah.
maybe we can set- that wouldn't even have
Sure.
to be before the next meeting.
Okay,
No.
Whenever.
Okay. yeah,
So Sue, your timeline, if we may not be able to make this happen before our next meeting.
That's fine, whatever
Okay.
you guys.
It's a busy time for the
Well-
arborist,
No, I understand that, but I also we all have the money donated, not donated, but assigned to us, so. Even if
Okay.
just reviewing it, it doesn't mean it's gonna get done right away, but that way we could schedule which
Of course.
one of the
Okay.
hours, or the companies that.
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
when you have time, you'll try to set that up.
Absolutely.
Any other old or new business?
Arbor Day, what's up with that?
Yes, so Arbor Day, really quick, and I'll send this also out to everybody, but I have that tentative plan. Actually, it's more than tentative, it's almost a sure. It feels very as sure as possible. I just haven't talked to the Eco Club in a little bit, so this is a nice reminder for me to remind them of this plan, but 13 trees being planted at Little Harbor School. 8 o'clock on the 28th, people can begin showing up, and then the ceremony essentially kicks off at 8:30 with the reading of a proclamation. We'll plant one ceremonial tree, and then the crew and the Eco Club members and myself will all go and finish planting the remaining 12 trees. There was a press release that Stephanie Secord released, so that should be on the city website. But yeah, so
Maybe you could email that also.
Okay.
That would-
I will.
And that's April 28th.
Yep, it's Friday, April 28th.
8 o'clock at Little Harbor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's next week.
Okay.
And I would
Does
like,
anyone know the cost of the trees that were given away?
I believe they were about $30 each. That was my I think they resale it around $30 each. I don't know if we got a group discount or some kind of discount along the way, but AJ would probably have a better understanding of that.
So what actually ended up arriving, we couldn't give those big trees away.
Yeah.
Only 5 sours, those are the first 5 trees to go.
If we were to do this
That's
again,
yeah.
we're gonna probably focus more on the smaller ornamental varieties, because that's realistically what people
People
will
have
have
space
room
for.
for. So, but not to say, I
The
mean,
quality was okay.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we've learned a little bit from this event, but feel more equipped to do it differently and better the next time around.
Any other?
I want to make a plug for the Sustainability Fair. That is on Friday from 4 to 7. There's 30 vendors coming, sponsored by private citizen groups and supported with the library. So it should be very informative. DPW is going to be there. Max, I think, is going to try to swing in and talk about trees. My garden club will be there, and we'll be talking about native plants. And there is the proclamation for New Hampshire to make April Native Plant Month has gone through. Governor Sununu thought that was a fine idea, so that was done.
This is up in Durham.
Hmm?
Where is it?
Oh, it's at the middle school. It's at the Connie Bean Gymnasium, so you can walk right over. And the library did an amazing flyer. It was beautiful, so hopefully it'll be well attended. And then and then what they hope to do is to pick people's brain about the new climate change action plan that has been engaged, a firm has been engaged by the city, and pick people's brains about what their priorities are. And then they're hoping to have a lot of variety of options so people can go out on Earth Day and can participate in cleaning the Great Bog or the beaches or whatever you might see, because it is Earth Day on Saturday. And the Great Bog is what the city is working on, tidying up from 9 to noon, Saturday morning.
So any other old or new business? Thank you all. And Max, thank you for filling in for Peter. being the
Yes,
technical
thank you.
guy. We appreciate
Big
that.
shoes, but I did it.
We haven't seen the tape.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.